The stars above the galactic hall shone like cold diamonds. The great chamber filled with the voices of hundreds of alien delegates. Banners of every major species hung around the glowing floor, and in the center stood the emblem of the Galactic Council. Turning slowly in the blue light, it was supposed to be a place of peace, a symbol of unity, but tonight, the air was heavy with fear. At the central podium, the elder of the council raised his long, scaled hand. "The matter of Earth must be decided," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "Humanity has become unstable. Their wars have reached our borders, and their technology grows too quickly." Whispers filled the chamber. Some aliens shouted in anger, others nodded in silence. One delegate from the Varix Dominion hissed, "They are dangerous, they breed in chaos. They fight even their own kind. We must act before they spread further." A few spoke in defense. A small insectoid ambassador clicked nervously, "But they helped us during the Karth plague. They saved entire colonies, yet no one listened." The louder voices drowned him out in the far corner. A holographic projection flickered, showing images of ruined cities on Mars, burning skies and broken fleets. "They are collapsing already," said another counselor coldly. "If we cut trade and aid, nature will finish what they started." The vote began. Light crystals rose above each delegate, green for mercy, red for exile. When the lights faded, the hall glowed crimson. The decision was made. Earth was to be abandoned. All trade, contact, and travel with humanity were to be banned. All colonies isolated, and any human ships entering council space were to be destroyed. As the council seal burned across the galaxy, millions of humans cried out in disbelief. Earth's leaders sent desperate messages to the council, but no answer came. On Earth, the once shining cities turned dark. Food lines stretched for miles, satellites went offline, and colony transmissions faded one by one. Humanity's empire was falling apart. In the ruined capital of New Geneva, Admiral Kale stood on a cracked balcony, watching smoke rise over the city. The skies were filled with broken drones, falling like dying fireflies. Beside him stood Dr. Arya, head of the old Terran Defense Network, her eyes cold and tired. "They left us," Kale said quietly, his voice hard. "All of them. They think we'll die," Arya replied. "Maybe they want us to." Kale turned to her, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. "Then they'll be wrong," he said. "We'll make them regret this." Far above the planet, the last Terran warship drifted silently, its engines dead. The ship was called TNS Horizon. Once a proud explorer vessel, now a ghost ship inside. A few engineers still worked with scraps, trying to keep systems alive. Power flickered, oxygen levels dropped, but they refused to give up. Across the colonies, the same story played out. Humans trapped, hungry, afraid, but still building, still fighting on Luna. A young commander named Rion recorded a final broadcast. "To any who still hear this," he said, his face pale but eyes burning, "the Council thinks this is our end. But humanity does not die quietly. We will rise again, even from ashes." The transmission spread across the dark networks, from Earth to Mars, from Titan to forgotten mining stations. His words echoed, giving hope to billions. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, the alien leaders celebrated, believing the threat of humanity was gone forever. The elder smiled coldly. "They were strong, yes, but strength without control brings ruin. We did what was necessary," he said, raising a cup of blue light. But among the younger species, whispers began to grow. Some doubted, some feared what might come next. One young diplomat whispered, "What if they survive?" The elder laughed softly. "Then we will deal with them later," he said. "If they crawl back from their grave on Earth." Kale gathered the last remnants of the Terran command, deep underground beneath the burned city. Lights flickered across ancient computers. Screens showed dying colonies and failing systems. But Kale's eyes burned with something new, resolve. "We are cut off," he said. "We have no allies, no trade, and no future." He paused, then smiled faintly. "So we make our own." The officers stared, some afraid, some inspired. "Sir, with what ships?" One asked, "With what fuel?" Kale placed his hand on the old emblem of Earth Fleet Command, the silver insignia dull with age. "With what we have," he said, "and with what they left behind in secret labs." Scientists began scavenging alien wrecks and crashed drones, studying what little alien tech they had. Arya worked day and night decoding old council blueprints, her voice echoing through the dusty chambers. "If they call us unstable, Then let them see what stability looks like when it fights back. Outside, lightning split the black sky. Rain fell on the silent ruins. People gathered in shelters, whispering prayers, stories, and songs of the old world. And somewhere deep beneath the mountains, the engines of an ancient bunker rumbled to life for the first time in centuries. Lights came on one by one, revealing a forgotten hangar filled with the bones of ships that never flew. Kale looked at them and said softly, "We were abandoned by the galaxy, but not by destiny." Above the storm, lightning flashed again, and in that brief light, it seemed like the symbol of Earth glowed once more. Faint but alive, humanity had been betrayed, left to die. But in their silence, something powerful was beginning to awaken. The galaxy would soon remember the name of Earth, and when they did, they would tremble. The stars above Earth grew distant and cold. Trade routes that once glowed with ships and cargo faded into silence. The galaxy had turned its back, and humanity vanished from every official record. Their names erased, their systems marked as quarantined. To the Council, humanity was gone. To the galaxy, Earth was a myth, a cautionary tale told to young alien cadets. "Do not be like them," they said. They destroyed themselves. But beneath the scorched ground of Earth, deep within the forgotten bunkers, the fire of survival still burned. Admiral Kale stood before a darkened screen showing hundreds of colonies marked as lost. Every red blinking light represented millions gone. Yet he did not look defeated. Instead, his voice was steady. "If they wish to forget us, then we will become something they cannot ignore." Beside him, Dr. Arya stared at a set of blueprints older than anyone in the room, salvaged from pre-council archives. They showed designs for experimental drives, weapons and shields banned centuries ago. "These were forbidden for a reason," she whispered. "They said such power could bend space itself." Kale smiled faintly. "Then it's exactly what we need." The years passed. Earth changed. Cities sank beneath new metal layers. Underground caverns turned into foundries. Children grew up learning not about peace, but about survival in the shadow of betrayal. Humanity became something harder, sharper, and united by one shared memory, being left to die. They called this age the Long Dark, a time when the sun itself seemed to dim. Food was scarce, power was rationed, and hope was a rare luxury. But the Terran spirit did not break. A small colony on Titan built a fleet of drones that could mine the rings for fuel. Mars colonies constructed floating cities in its thin skies, and on Europa, engineers discovered how to turn frozen oceans into living reactors. Everything was built with scraps. Nothing wasted, nothing forgotten in secret. The Terran Defense Command evolved into something new. The Earth Reclamation Directorate. Led by Kale and Arya, their mission was simple. Rebuild, rearm and rise in the shadows of dead satellites. Humans tested their first prototype warship. It had no name, no registry, only a hull number, 001. The engineers called it Ghostlight, because it moved like a phantom through the void, invisible to sensors, powered by a small fragment of a void core reactor scavenged from alien wreckage. When Ghostlight returned from its first jump test, silent and unharmed, the technicians cried. Humanity had taken its first step back into the stars. Meanwhile, rumors began to spread among the rim traders. Whispers of strange black ships that never showed on scanners, miners who vanished near the edges of abandoned Terran systems, and signals in old human languages echoing through the void. The Council dismissed it as superstition. Ghost stories, they said. The dead do not return. But in the deep sectors, pirate fleets were vanishing, replaced by wreckage marked with a single burning symbol, the old emblem of Earth. Back on Earth, Kale stood in the war room surrounded by his commanders, their uniforms patched and worn but their eyes alive. "Our enemies think we are shadows," he said. "Let them, the longer we stay unseen. The stronger we become." Arya activated a hologram showing dozens of new ship designs, each more advanced than the last. "We can't fight the Council yet," she said. "But the outer rim, it's open, forgotten, unguarded." Kale looked at the map. The rim sectors glittered with abandoned colonies and dying outposts. "That's where we start," he said. "We take the forgotten worlds. We protect those the Council ignored, and when the time comes, the rim will stand with us." And so began the silent expansion. A campaign that no history book recorded. Human fleets moving quietly, rebuilding colonies, freeing enslaved species, striking pirates and raiders who preyed on the weak. Wherever the Council turned away, humanity arrived. In a small mining world called Vora 9, An alien child looked up as massive shadows passed over the sky. Not alien ships, but human dreadnoughts, silent and dark. The locals thought they were myths. But when the soldiers stepped out, they saw the old Terran emblem glowing faintly on their armor. The child whispered, "Who are you?" And the soldier smiled. "We are the Forgotten," he said. "And we never forgot you." Word spread quickly through the rim. The Deathworlders had returned, but they were not conquerors. They were builders, protectors, and warriors. For the first time in generations, hope spread again. In the hidden base under Earth's crust, Kale and Arya watched new fleets rise from the docks, engines glowing with blue void light. "How long before the Council knows?" Arya asked quietly. Kale looked toward the stars, his voice low. "Not yet. Let them sleep. When they wake, they will see a galaxy they no longer recognize." And in that dark silence, the first Terran armada was born. Ships named Vengeance, Eclipse, and Honor, forged in pain and powered by purpose. The long dark had ended. Humanity was no longer dying. They were waiting for the right moment to return. The void between stars had never felt so alive. Shadows moved where there should have been silence, and whispers spread through the forgotten rim. They said the humans had returned, but no one could prove it. Then one night, every sensor on the border world of Calthus went dark. The planetary governor, a reptilian official of the Council, stood trembling before the blackout screens. "It must be solar interference," his aide stammered. But then the ground shook. A rumble filled the sky, low and endless, like thunder coming from the heavens. When the clouds parted, a single black shape appeared. Enormous, silent, and without light, the ship was massive, bigger than any vessel the Council had ever built. Its surface absorbed starlight like a black mirror. The governor screamed for the defense fleet, but his ships could not move. Their systems were jammed. Their weapons refused to fire. The black ship drifted closer until its shadow covered the entire capital. Then, a single signal echoed through every channel.
"This world is now under Terran protection." The words were calm,
quiet, and final. When the broadcast ended, the black ship vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Not through engines, not through warp, but through something beyond known science. The Council called it impossible, yet it had happened. That ship was the TNS Vengeance, the first of the new Terran dreadnoughts. Forged during the Long Dark and powered by technology born from pain and defiance, its heart, a void core reactor, something even the Council dared not build. Inside the command deck, Admiral Kale stood before a vast window, the stars reflecting in his eyes. "So it begins," he said quietly, his voice carrying both pride and sorrow. Beside him, Dr. Arya watched the systems hum. "The void core is stable," she said. "But its energy, it feels alive." Kale nodded. "It's not just a weapon," he said, "it's a promise." From that day forward, the galaxy began to change. Council patrols disappeared. Pirate strongholds went dark and entire sectors fell silent. The Rim was no longer the Council's playground. It was now Terran space, but humanity did not announce war. They built quietly, planet by planet, system by system. They offered help to the abandoned worlds, medicine, protection, trade. In return, those worlds gave loyalty. Soon banners of blue and silver on the symbol of Earth waved over the stations once ruled by fear. Aliens began to whisper new names. Deathworlders, they said. The monsters who walk among fire and ice, who breathe poison and survive the impossible. Yet those same aliens found safety under Terran rule. A small alien child on the world of Ryden asked a human soldier, "Why do they call you Deathworlders?" The soldier smiled softly, adjusting the child's blanket. "Because our home tried to kill us every day," he said. "And we learned to survive." The legend of the Deathworlders spread faster than any fleet. Traders, smugglers, and refugees all told stories of humans walking through radiation zones without suits, of Terran medics healing wounds that others called hopeless, of warships that moved without sound and struck without mercy. One by one, the Rim worlds declared allegiance to the Terran Directorate, not by fear but by choice. In the hidden command station orbiting a gas giant, Kale stood before his officers. "We have risen from extinction," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "But the galaxy still believes we are gone. Let them." For now, Arya looked up from her console. "We cannot hide forever, Kyle," she said. "The Council will see. They will come." Kyle turned to her, eyes hard as steel. "Then let them come," he said. "They left us to die. Now they will learn what Deathworlders have become." At that moment, An urgent signal arrived from a human outpost near the border of Council space. An entire alien battle group had entered Terran territory, their insignia glowing with the mark of the Valan Dominion. A Council ally, Kale smiled coldly. "Perfect," he said. "It's time the galaxy sees what we've become." The Vengeance turned its bow toward the coordinates, engines humming like the heartbeat of a god. As it moved through the void, the stars bent slightly around it, space itself trembling. When the Valan fleet appeared, 30 ships strong, they opened fire instantly, beams of light cutting through the dark, but the Vengeance did not move. Its shields absorbed everything like waves hitting stone. Then a single Terran officer looked to Kyle. "Sir, orders?" Kale's voice was calm. "Return fire." A single blast from the Vengeance tore through half the enemy armada. Their ships split apart like paper. No sound, no explosion, just silence. Pure and terrifying. The survivors tried to flee, but the human ship was already ahead of them, teleporting through folds of space, striking again and again until nothing remained. The battle lasted only 6 minutes and the galaxy changed forever. When the news reached the Council, their chambers filled with panic. "Impossible," they shouted. No human ship could do this, but the data was clear. The Vengeance was real. And it flew the flag of Earth across the stars. The forgotten and the broken began to hope again. Whispers became voices, voices became chants. "Humanity has returned," they said. "The Deathworlders have risen, and in the silent dark of space, the Earth emblem glowed once more, a circle of blue surrounded by silver wings, drifting in the void like a promise that the galaxy would never forget them again. The galaxy was burning again, but this time it wasn't humanity's fault. It was the Council's fear. When the news of the Valan Dominion's defeat reached the core worlds, the chambers of the Council erupted into chaos. Voices shouted over each other. Reports flew across the room. 30 ships destroyed in 6 minutes. "No survivors, no signals, only silence. This cannot be," cried one ambassador, slamming his claws on the table. The humans were supposed to be extinct, but the evidence was undeniable. Black ships invisible to scanners, human markings, and weapons that broke every known law of physics. The elder of the Council spoke softly, his scaled lips trembling. "They survived," he said, "and they have returned." Across the rim, Terran fleets expanded quietly, claiming abandoned worlds and protecting refugee colonies, wherever the Council's grip weakened. The humans arrived not as conquerors, but as guardians. The outer worlds began to whisper a forbidden word. Alliance, the Rim peoples, miners, refugees, traders, all gathered under the protection of Earth. Kale's broadcasts filled their skies. "The Council left you," he said, "but Earth will not." For the first time in galactic history, the Forgotten united under one flag. But the Council could not allow it. Within the capital of Virexia Prime, the High Command gathered its fleets, 1,000,000 ships, armed with the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They called it Operation Silence. Its goal, erase every trace of humanity once and for all. They underestimated how much humanity had changed. When the first invasion wave entered Terran space, the stars themselves seemed to fight back. Hidden satellites awakened. Thousands of drones burst from asteroids, forming defensive nets powered by void energy. The invaders vanished into white fire. And then, out of the darkness, the Terran armada appeared. Not sleek like the alien ships, but brutal and beautiful, every hull black as obsidian, glowing faint blue from the energy veins running beneath. They moved in perfect silence, no transmissions, no fear. At the front flew the TNS Vengeance, followed by Eclipse, Honor, and Ghostlight. When the enemy opened fire, their beams struck empty space. No, the humans were gone, teleporting between folds of gravity, appearing behind enemy lines and striking with impossible precision. Entire fleets disintegrated in seconds. Plasma lances slicing through cruisers like glass. Missiles bending through space guided by AI minds older than the Council itself. In the chaos, alien captains screamed for retreat. But Kale's voice echoed across open comms. Calm and cold. "You left us to die," he said. "Now, the Rim will live free." Every word felt like judgment, every strike like vengeance long delayed. From orbit, the human fleets descended, landing troops not to conquer, but to rescue civilians the Council had used as shields. Soldiers in Terran black armor carried children, tended to the wounded, rebuilt shelters, their helmets shining under twin suns. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The so-called Deathworlders, the monsters of legend, were acting with compassion, courage, and purpose, On the Council's networks, captured footage spread, a human medic saving an alien child, a Terran engineer repairing an alien reactor, a soldier shielding a group of refugees from falling debris. The narrative shattered. The galaxy began to question everything it had been told. As the Rim Wars raged, the balance of power shifted. The Terran Directorate grew with every battle, their fleets unstoppable, their technology unmatched, their unity absolute. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Arya watched new reports come in. "Another world has joined us," she said, "the Norths. They've sworn allegiance." Kale nodded slowly. "Good," he said. "The Rim belongs to no council now. It belongs to those who survived it. But not all victories came without cost. Thousands of Terran soldiers had fallen, defending the weak, and each death carved deeper determination into humanity's heart. In one haunting battle over the moon of Tarlis, a Terran captain ordered his ship to stay behind to cover refugees. When the enemy surrounded them, the captain sent a final message to Kale. "For Earth, for the Rim," he said, then detonated his core, taking the entire enemy fleet with him. The name of that ship, Endurance, would be written in every Terran memorial forever. By the time the Rim Wars ended, the map of the galaxy had changed. Half the Rim worlds now stood under Terran protection. The other half begged to join. The Council was no longer feared, only pitied, its fleets shattered, its voice trembling in the Council's chamber. The Elder spoke in a whisper. "We thought they would die," he said, "but we created something far greater." And somewhere deep in space, humanity's signal burned across the void, a pulse of light that reached every world. Every station, every heart, a message that said, "We are humanity. We endure. We rise." And the stars themselves seemed to echo that truth. The Rim now bowed to Earth, and the galaxy would soon follow. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never felt so small. The once mighty hall of 1,000 voices now echoed with fear. Screens flickered with red alerts. Ships lost, fleets destroyed. Entire sectors under Terran control. The Elder sat motionless at the center, his eyes fixed on the projection of a single black ship, the TNS Vengeance, its dark hull gliding across the stars, silent, unstoppable. "They were supposed to vanish," one ambassador shouted. "They were supposed to die." "But they didn't," another whispered. "They grew stronger, for the first time in centuries." The galaxy's rulers realized they were no longer the masters of the stars. The Council's armies had failed. Their technology outdated, their unity broken, and the name that once meant power, Galactic Council, now meant nothing before the word humanity. Across the stars, every world tuned into a transmission that cut through all channels. Static cleared, and a man's voice filled the galaxy, steady, cold, and unforgettable. "This is Admiral Kale of the Terran Directorate," he said. "You left us to die, you erased our name, you condemned our children to darkness." His voice paused, calm but sharp as a blade. "We survived, we rebuilt, and now we have returned." Behind him the camera showed not soldiers, but children and civilians of the Rim, humans, aliens, hybrids, all standing together beneath the Terran flag. Kyle's words echoed again. "You called us monsters, but look around you. The monsters are the ones who turned away." Billions watched in silence. Council citizens wept, soldiers hesitated to fight, and entire worlds began to question their leaders. The Elder tried to speak. "Send envoys," he ordered. "We will make peace," but even as his words left his mouth, he knew it was too late. A Council convoy of diplomats was sent to negotiate. Their ships carried banners of surrender. They were met at the edge of Terran space by the TNS Honor. On the bridge stood Captain Ryan, the same young officer who once sent a message of hope during the long dark. Now older, battle-worn, his eyes still burning with the same fire. "Transmit their message," he ordered. The Council envoy appeared as a trembling hologram. "We come seeking peace," the alien said, voice shaking. "We were wrong to abandon Earth, please. Let us coexist." Ryan's gaze was steady, his voice firm. "Peace requires honesty," he said, "and justice." He played a recording of the Council's ancient vote, the day humanity was abandoned, the red lights glowing like blood. The silence that followed, then he sent back his answer. "Tell your council this, peace will come, but only after truth. The galaxy will know what you did." That message spread like wildfire. Archives were hacked, hidden records released. Every lie exposed, the galaxy saw how the council had abandoned billions to die, how they exploited the weak and silenced the desperate. Riots broke out across the core worlds. Alien citizens shouted in the streets. Where was the council when we suffered? The elders' power crumbled, allies fled. Even old enemies joined humanity's cause. Meanwhile, Kale gathered his fleet near the galactic center, thousands of ships forming a silent wall of light and darkness, each bearing the mark of Earth. Dr. Arya stood beside him, her eyes on the stars. They'll surrender, she said softly. They have no choice. Kyle shook his head slowly. Not yet, he replied. They still believe they can control fear. They don't understand that fear no longer works against us. In the council chamber, chaos ruled. One desperate leader shouted, "We must use the core cannon. It's our last weapon." The elder hesitated. That cannon hasn't been fired in 1,000 years, he said. It could destroy the core itself. But desperation drowned reason. The order was given, and deep beneath the core world's crust, the planet trembled as the ancient weapon charged, its energy drawn from the very sun itself. Across the void, Terran scanners detected the buildup. They're powering something massive, Arya said, her voice tight. Whatever it is, it could wipe out our fleet. Kyle's eyes hardened. Then we end this now, he said. The Vengeance led the charge, Terran ships forming into a living spear, piercing through the Council's defense lines like lightning through glass. Missiles bent through gravity. AI-guided torpedoes struck faster than light, and human fighters weaved between beams like living shadows. The battle for the core had begun. Council ships exploded in waves of fire, but the Vengeance kept moving forward, its black hull glowing with blue energy veins pulsing like a heartbeat. As the core cannon reached full power, a blinding light filled the chamber. The Elder screamed, "Fire!" A beam of sunfire erupted, cutting through space. Entire fleets vaporized. But when the light faded, the Terran ships were still there, untouched, surrounded by a faint distortion. Arya gasped. The void shields held. Kale looked through the smoke and said quietly, "Now it's our turn." A single command echoed through the fleet. "All batteries fire." The sky turned white, and the Council's flagship vanished in a burst of silence. When the smoke cleared, the core was in ruins. The Council's fleet's gone, its leader scattered. For the first time in galactic history, the galaxy belonged not to the Council, but to those they left behind. Kale's voice echoed one last time. "You feared humanity's strength," he said, "but strength was never our weapon. Unity was." And as his words spread through every system, from the core to the rim, the galaxy trembled, not in fear, but in awe. The Deathworlders had done what no empire ever could. They had turned betrayal into balance, vengeance into justice, and war into hope. The Council was no more. The stars themselves bowed to Earth. The core burned. The once shining worlds of the Galactic Council hung shattered in orbit, glowing with the red light of destruction. The great fleets that had ruled the stars for millennia were nothing more than drifting wrecks. For generations, the Council had spoken with the voice of gods, but now their temples were silent, their banners torn, their arrogance erased by the return of the species they had cast aside. Admiral Kyle watched from the bridge of the TNS Vengeance, the blue haze of the void rippling across the viewscreen. "It's over," whispered an officer, but Kale shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "It only ends when the truth begins." On the ground below, Terran dropships descended through the smoke, their engines humming like thunder. Instead of conquering, they carried food, medicine, engineers. Everywhere the humans landed, they rebuilt what the Council had destroyed. Alien civilians looked up in awe as the black-armored soldiers of Earth handed them water and shelter. The news spread faster than light. Humanity was not here to rule through fear. They were here to rebuild through strength. The old empires had fallen, but from their ashes rose something entirely new. In the shattered council chamber, the remaining elders were brought before the Terran delegation. The marble floor cracked. The banners of 1,000 species lay scattered. Kale entered in silence, his presence heavy as gravity itself. Behind him walked Dr. Arya, calm, determined, her eyes reflecting the glow of fire outside. One of the elders, trembling and weak, whispered, "You have your victory, Deathworlder. What more do you want?" Kale's voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Justice," he said. "Not revenge, not conquest, only the balance that you broke." He activated a projection that filled the ruined hall. It showed archives, the day of the vote, the betrayal, the red lights that sealed humanity's exile, and then the centuries of silence that followed. This, Kale said, is no longer hidden. The galaxy will remember, not to punish, but to learn. Arya stepped forward, holding a small metal tablet. This is the Accord of the Rim, she said. It will replace your laws. Every world will have a voice. No species will be abandoned again. The elders looked at each other. Too stunned to speak, they had expected death. Not mercy, domination, not justice. Kale turned to them once more. You called us dangerous because we refused to kneel, he said, but danger was never our curse, it was our gift. The will to survive. The courage to change. Outside, Terran banners unfurled across the Core's towers, black and silver against the fires of the past. Fleets of thousands hovered above, silent and ready. Not as conquerors, but as guardians of peace. The new age had begun. The Rimworld sent delegates to the first Terran assembly. Representatives of hundreds of species sat together for the first time. No hierarchy, no fear, each one speaking freely, a sight the old council had never allowed. Dr. Arya stood before them and spoke, her voice strong. This is not humanity's empire, she said. This is humanity's promise. The hall erupted in applause, the sound echoing like thunder across the core. Even those who once feared the humans now bowed in respect. Meanwhile, far above, Kyle stood at the window of the Vengeance, watching as repair drones rebuilt the shattered stations. His reflection flickered against the stars. We were born from war, he said softly, but we will live for peace. Arya joined him. Do you think they'll forgive us? She asked quietly. Kale smiled faintly. They already have, he said. We gave them what no council ever did. Hope. As the Vengeance turned slowly toward the distant edge of the galaxy, its engines glowed like the rising sun across the stars. Worlds once forgotten now burned bright again, powered by Terran technology, guarded by Terran fleets, inspired by Terran courage. The elder races watched in silence as the balance of power shifted forever. The title that once belonged to them, Keepers of the Galaxy, now belonged to humanity. The Deathworlders, the survivors, the builders of a new dawn. And when the galactic sunrise touched the core once more, every world saw the same signal broadcast across the void. A single phrase glowing in Terran blue. Never again shall any world be left to die. The age of the Council had ended. The age of Earth had begun. The galaxy had known many empires, but none like this. The age of greed, betrayal, and silence was over. In its place stood a unity built from ashes, held together not by fear, but by the memory of humanity's pain. Where the Council's flags once hung, now flew the banner of the Terran Accord, black and silver. Its center glowing blue with the symbol of Earth. It was more than a flag, it was a promise. From the frozen mines of Vora 9 to the crystal seas of Uranus, Terran ships moved across the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. They carried engineers, healers, and teachers. They brought peace where once there had been only war. Children of 100 races studied together in new academies built by humans. They learned about gravity, light, and courage. They learned about Earth, the death world that refused to die. In the great capital of the Outer Rim, a new city rose from the dust. Unity Prime, its tower shone under twin suns, its streets filled with laughter and trade. It was here that Admiral Kyle walked for the last time, his uniform worn, his eyes calm. He passed crowds of aliens cheering his name, yet he smiled only faintly. For Kale did not see himself as a ruler. He saw himself as a witness, a man who had watched his world fall, and now watched the galaxy rise. Dr. Arya stood waiting by the great memorial at the city's heart, a monument of steel and light. It showed a human hand reaching upward, not in power, but in friendship. Names of the fallen glowed beneath it. Humans and aliens alike. Arya turned as Kale approached. It's beautiful, she said softly. Kale looked up at the shining hand and nodded. They called us monsters, he said. Now they call us home. Above them, a new generation of ships soared through the sky. Explorers, not warships, each named after the places humanity had once lost. Horizon Phoenix, Endurance 2. They carried no weapons, only scientists, artists, and dreamers. Their mission, to go beyond even the rim, to find what lay past the known stars. Arya smiled. You always said humanity was meant to explore, she said. Not to rule, Kale chuckled quietly. Exploration is the purest form of defiance, he replied, because it means we still believe there's something worth finding. The galaxy watched as the Terran Directorate transformed into the Terran Federation, a council of equals where every species had a voice. And every decision was shared. No one was left alone again. No planet forgotten. No child abandoned in the dark in a distant corner of space. A young alien captain looked up at a Terran starship passing overhead, its engines humming softly. "They saved us," she whispered. "The humans saved everyone." Her mentor smiled gently. "No," he said. "They reminded us how to save ourselves." On Earth, the cradle of it all, forests grew where war had once raged. Cities gleamed with light. Oceans shimmered with life. The planet that had survived everything now breathed freely again. At sunset, old veterans gathered near the ruins of New Geneva. Now rebuilt as a place of learning and peace, they spoke of the long dark, the Rim Wars, and the fall of the Council. But always they ended with pride. "We were forgotten," one would say, "but we remembered ourselves." In orbit, the TNS Vengeance drifted silently, no longer a weapon, now a monument. Its hull polished silver, its engines cold. The ship that had once brought fear now stood as a symbol of what courage could build. Kale's voice was engraved in its halls, repeating endlessly, "Strength is not in the weapon, but in the will to rise again." As the stars brightened above, a new signal rippled across the galaxy. The Terran beacon, its pulse steady and warm, reaching every inhabited world, every ship, every heart. The message was simple, carried in every language. Together we rise, together we endure. Together we are the light. And across the galaxy, billions looked to the sky and whispered the same words back. From death world to destiny, from betrayal to brotherhood, from darkness to dawn, the Council had fallen. But humanity had risen beyond vengeance, beyond empire, beyond even itself. In the infinite silence of the cosmos, a single blue planet shone brighter than any star, its light stretching across eternity, a reminder to all who would ever live among the stars. Never abandon hope, never abandon each other. For when the galaxy turned away, humanity learned to stand alone. And when they rose again, the universe followed. The outer rim now bowed not in fear, but in gratitude. The new dawn had come, and it was Terran,